I feel like standing because I don't know how to do some sort of presentation sitting down, but that's okay. We'll keep it informal. Firstly, we just want to say thank you to all of you for coming to come listen to the queers, talk about queer things, and a big thank you to Create SA and Fame Week and MIP Africa for inviting us and giving platform to this discussion around queer representation. We are just going to have a conversation around queer topics and the experience off screen and on screen, from writing, crewing, production, acting, and various different departments. So I'll let each one of us introduce ourselves.
Starting with you?
No.
Want to go? No, you go. Okay, sure. Hello everyone, my name is Gabe Gabriel. I am a trans man, I'm a filmmaker, mostly screenwriter, but also director and actor, and my pronouns are he or they.
Hi everyone, I am Q, also trans, we hope you know. I was one of the first black assigned females in the camera department in Cape Town. I worked as that for 2 years. I then trained upcoming black females within the camera department, and I'm excited to be here.
My name is Loren Loubser. I am a non-binary filmmaker. I'm an actor, intimacy coordinator, and now writer and director. My pronouns are they. Okay, so
Thank you.
three very different experiences as queer people, as crew, as from like race, from gender, from sexuality. We represent three very different, experiences within the film industry. So I think I want us to dive first into representation, which could be a whole half an hour discussion on its own, but we'll try and keep it short. And maybe Gabe, you can start off from the writing process already, and representing queer characters and queer narratives, what that looks like for you and why it's so important.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the kind of 101 of it is that obviously communities not seeing themselves represented in the media is hurtful and kind of harmful, because it allows people who don't understand our communities to have false ideas about us or very singular narratives about us. I will come to the Netflix documentary Disclosure for like a really good 101 on trans representation on screen, because I think that it really starts with interrogating what kind of stories you are telling or you are helping people tell, whether you're a writer or whether you're in crew, no matter where you are in the storytelling business or in media. It's really important that you make sure that any kind of representation is authentic, right? And that I feel like goes without saying, but still needs saying for some reason. And so in my experience as a screenwriter, I have often been approached to sort of consult, often for free, on whether or not something's going to get someone cancelled. I get, like, someone will send me a script, and I'm talking about across the board, and not just sort of short films and friends, but like major producers, international producers who have come to me and been like, can you just make sure I'm not going to get cancelled for this? And obviously, if that's the question, that's usually the answer is yes, because that's clearly what you're worried about. So I've had the experience of having to kind of tell people how to, first of all, get rid of a lot of transphobia in their stories, and then actually, it's not just about making sure you're not cancelled, it's also about trying to do justice to a community that is beautiful but also very vast. There are as many ways to be trans as there are trans people, so there is not only one single way to be trans, and that's the thing that I'm always trying to get across, and I'm always saying that if you're gonna write about or put trans people on screen or queer people on screen, make sure that there are queer and trans people behind the camera, or either scripting or consulting with pay, so that you do it right. So I think that's the sort of basics of how it starts in the writing world. My experience in my own writing is just that I'm trying to tell as many trans and queer stories as possible, because my main concern in the industry is about this singular narrative, the idea that being trans is just about pain and trauma, and it only looks one way, right? So that's my main focus. And then the only other thing I'll say on the topic is that we have a tricky situation on the continent. I've just done a program through the Realness Institute where I was very much encouraged to bring my transness and my queerness to the characters and to the story. But you also obviously have to take into consideration that when you're looking at Africa as a territory, there are some countries that are less inviting to our content than others. And that's not to say give up on those countries, because there are a lot of queer people in those countries. So it's figuring out, and I don't have the answer to this yet, but it's just an ongoing conversation, it's figuring out how to get the representation on screen in different ways. You know, there are smart ways that you can subliminally message to the queer people in the other countries that need to see themselves, and there are smart ways that you can also be very overt about your queerness on screen, and I want to try and traverse both of those spaces so that I'm making the like super duper gay shit and that everyone can see is like really, really queer and overtly queer, but I also want to be contributing to stories and making stories where it's more nuanced, and it is, again, just not this singular narrative of queerness that is also just pride flags and corporate stuff. So I think that's how I would sum it up.
I think something that's really important when we think of representation sometimes just becomes like this buzzword, and we don't think about it in a responsible representation. In South Africa and in Africa, queer people, and especially black trans women, are the most marginalized, the most targeted. So when we represent people and the characters in films, everyone wants like a pat on the back that there was a queer or trans character in the story, but it's often traumatizing. It's often violent representation. It's often things that we don't want to see as queer people, and we don't want the world to constantly be seeing us in that type of way. So there is a responsibility that comes with putting queer people in the narratives, and we're not saying don't. If you're a straight person or cis person and you're writing those stories, it's great. Put the characters in. We're not just the like queer best friend that's like laugh a minute. We have relationships. We have toxic relationships. We work across different like spheres. You know, like we're not just like you're saying like this linear singular narrative, but also if you are concerned, hire queer consultants, hire queer actors, hire queer writers to do a pass on it, hire queer crew members so that the gaze and who's shooting it is from that perspective, because that's a way of doing it responsibly. Sometimes people are like, nah, it's so much work, just change the character. And then we get side-eyed, and then we are the only ones that make the queer stories. And the queer people have to make the queer stories, hire the queer crew.
Also, if you're looking for writers, queer writers in South Africa and now also beyond, come to us. We know people and crew and everything.
Yeah.
We'll always recommend our top-tier queer filmmakers.
I think people often say to us, oh, but there isn't any queer DLPs. There are no like trans writers. We can't find like a queer AD. If you're looking for them, we have a collective. You can ask us. On queer crew, what has your experience been like? You working predominantly, because I met you on the international film set, that is predominantly male, predominantly like cis men, and not a very queer friendly sense to be working on.
I think for me, it's been, they're always trying to challenge you with your power, you know, like they always try and see whether they don't respect your pronouns first and foremost. That is out the window. They see your body and they're like, okay, you are she, her, and I'm he, him, or he, they, and they don't respect that. And I feel as well like with them, it's the refusal to be educated. Like they don't want to be educated on queerness. They believe in what they believe in. They believe in the way that they were brought up, and they want to make you feel that you're not part of them, or you're subhuman to them. And I feel that that could change if you speak up for yourself, you know, because I remember this one time on set when I came out as trans, and I was like, hey guys, so just so you guys know I'm trans, and I want to start hormones and everything. And then this guy was like, okay, show me yours, then I'll show you mine. I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's like, you say you're a man, then you have to have male genitalia. And I'm like, bro, it doesn't work that way. Like, I don't have it. So I do feel that producers, most importantly, need to step up on by having like seminars or meetings to protect queer group members, because we are the marginalized art set. We are we're not inferior, but we are the ones that we are targeted the most, and it gets tiring being the one to always stand up for everybody else. You know, I wish that I wasn't the voice of the voiceless, but somebody has to do it. You know, so I think art set, it's hard, but you have a goal when you get to set, and your goal is to make the day. And in making the day, you need to sort of like put aside people move towards you, put your best foot forward, and do what you came here to do. And also report things. You know, like I think the reason why there's not much exposure on queerness or like queer abuse on set is because people don't speak up. Report things, speak to the producers. You still want to listen. Speak to the production houses. Somebody is meant to listen. Yeah.
I completely agree. I had an experience earlier this year on a set where I was in a room where something extremely transphobic was said about someone else. And I was in the room with two cishet other crew members, actually production people, not crew. And I ended up reporting it, but I reported it 2 days later, and I know that they didn't report it, and I just want to call anyone who, whether you're queer or not, that if you hear things or you see things, you see that kind of abuse, please don't leave it up to the person who is being abused to do the reporting. Obviously you want to be sensitive, you don't want to get into someone's business in case it jeopardizes their job, so maybe you can find a way to talk to them, but I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah.
But it is precarious, but if you see something and you know that is blatantly racist, or it's transphobic, or it's homophobic, whatever you see, ableist, just try your best to be the person there who goes like, I think something needs to be done about this, and I'm going to go and put it in the report, because production has to put it in that report. They can't ignore it.
Yeah, I think sometimes if you are struggling to hear, they are the earphones in the product. But I think a lot of the times people put the responsibility on the queer crew members. That we stand up for each other, that we correct other people's misgendering, that we do the reporting. But I can tell you honestly, as a queer member, I never report anything that happens to me, because I want to work. I want to work on the next job.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the problem child.
Yeah.
I think I've worked on maybe 2 sets where I firstly told production and other crew members my pronouns, because I don't want a little like star next to my name that now we must remember they, them, now we must workshop the crew, now there's a major inconvenience around my name. I'll just rather hire somebody else. And I know that happens. I watch people crew up. I've worked as an AD. I know that when there's a line next to your name, it's easier for production to just go to somebody else. So I really implore there to be like allies, maybe designated people in your crew that we know you are the person that we report to, or to share the hotline. Sometimes productions are like, maybe we'll just put the hotline on the call sheet, then everyone can see it's there. But it's not a bad thing for people to be communicating and saying, this has made me feel uncomfortable on set, or can we address this, or can we have somebody in to do a workshop with the crew, so that set feels a bit safer and more understanding. But I guarantee you that we are not going to report the stuff ourselves, because I want to work. And it does speak to how difficult it is on set sometimes. It's a very heterosexual set. Set it's just naturally like that, unless queer people are crewing up other queer people, and that's quite a rarity. We don't often get that. But yeah, I think people would be shocked the amount of things that we actually get that gets said to us on set. Our sexuality is constantly challenged. I have like HODs, anyone just come and ask me all of a sudden about my sexuality and to challenge it. You know, like, have you tried this? Have you thought about this? So what about this? So does that mean this? I'm like, I'm here to work. I'm focusing on my work, and now my whole identity is being challenged on the sidelines. I'm not going to report that because, firstly, I don't want to like make their life more difficult, but I don't want to be the problem child. Yeah. Sure. I know that like we can come up with a lot of practical ways to actually address that. I mean, you can hire us to do workshops for your group and to give you like mandates. But what are some of the simple things that practically productions can take on that would just make you feel a little bit safer on set?
I think in the mornings, once a week or every morning, the first aid usually does announcements, right? I think like if they touch on these topics, like let's keep everyone safe on set, let's respect each other regardless of what your own gender identity is or your pronouns are. Let's just respect one another. And I feel like also the HODs within each department, if you speak up, they are meant to do something. They are meant to be your safe space because they are your HOD. So I do feel that as the first AD, first thing on set, we get things on what the day is going to be like, and then end it off with saying, let's just respect one another, regardless of what you are.
Constant reminder, yeah, agree. And I also think it really does come down to crewing. I mean, you really don't have to look far. There are a lot of queer people in our industry here in South Africa who are working and doing really great work, and it just takes one production company to give somebody a shot, to upskill them into a high position in the department that they're in, or to just give them a shot in whatever their position is. I think you can rely on the queers, because quite often the queers have to work double as hard just to sort of prove themselves. So there is generally a pretty good work ethic and a value of work. And if you are looking for people and you don't know where they are, ask other queer filmmakers. We worked on a film in 2021 where we really tried to have all our HODs be queer, and because of that, there was such a safe feeling on set. I'm not saying that every set has to be all queer all the time, but it really showed that when you aren't sort of battling those microaggressions and that abuse, there's a different feeling on set, and that if we work in a capitalist industry, that begets better work, right? And then our work is better. So even if that is your goal, I promise you it is a way that you can get better at it. And also I would want to bring up the fact that there are very different experiences. I mean, even the three of us sitting here on stage have very different experiences of getting hired as trans and non-binary people. And that, like everything in South Africa, it's completely racial, right? So my experience coming out as trans in 2019 was not that I lost work, but that has everything to do with the fact that I'm white. And I think that you must make sure that when you're hiring in terms of queerness, that you are looking at it in an intersectional way, that it's not just like 10 white gays. Like really be thoughtful about it across race, across ability, across all gender and gender identity and sexuality. It's really not something that I think will ever hinder your production to have more points of view in storytelling. As a writer, that is absolutely my belief, that in storytelling, if you have more points of view, it's only going to make the story stronger. It's not going to make it weaker. So there's really no real excuse not to do that.
I mean, I find it exhausting sometimes, but I don't want it to feel like that. We have quite a new addendum that goes to the back of contracts around sexual harassment, and I think that's a good place to put something that's educational, because I think if people can't get a workshop, but there's like a sheet at the back that gives just a little bit of information around what non-binary is, what pronouns are. Some people are like, I don't have pronouns. We all have pronouns. I want to ask you your pronouns so that you ask me my pronouns, so that you hear it and you use it. But we really need to focus a little bit on like the education around it as well, because it's no point in me just saying, okay, well, you know, these are my pronouns. Our crew needs to understand what that is and how that works and how they can be a part of it. And when they feel included, and it's not just like, oh, there's these queers, when it feels like, oh, we want to make like a family on set. We want to make it feel like this is our film all together. We're all looking out for each other. I think it makes set feel so much more like it's just a better space to come to. I don't want to like wake up with anxiety going to set, feeling nauseous, can't wait till I leave. I want to enjoy my work, and I really do enjoy being on set and working with crew. I just don't want to constantly be fighting or educating. I feel like we should have workshops, there should be spreadsheets, we should hire queer crew, we should talk on set, we should give briefs. There are many ways.
Yeah, we also don't want to make people afraid to ask questions. It's just not about interrogating queerness, but asking if you're coming from a good place and just wanting to respect someone better, then asking the questions is good. We don't want to feel like the sort of like we're policing people on some lack of education that they don't have. You know, there's got to be an understanding for who has had access to any kind of discussion around language and the way that you can respect people. I see that we have 5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes, yeah. Before we open to the floor, just very quickly, I think it's really important to be around the education topic, to be mentoring and to be upskilling. And if you think that because there is like a major lack in certain departments of whether that's like black, queer, female filmmakers, and you want to, upskill writers, upskill DOPs, and you think we need more people in HOD positions to bring people onto your sets, not only in a trainee position, but to have them like learn with a director and and mentor. We run a mentorship program under the Queer Writers Incubator that's constantly looking to upskill other queer writers, filmmakers. So I implore like other productions to do the same, to mentor so that we have trained people in different positions. We're not just constantly hiring the same people. We have 5 minutes left. The queers can talk. They should have given us an hour. I don't know why didn't we only get on that? But are there any questions that I want? Yeah. I'll go to Big Boss CEO, meet me at the back.
Do we have a mic? Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have a question, I have a comment. And I'm hoping there are EPs and production houses in this room. I think it starts from us to make production safe. I'm Nigerian, so in my country, you get arrested being identified as anything but heterosexual. So to be honest, whenever I come to these shows, because I shot here last year, and I met someone, and I thought this person was amazing, and I asked, what are your preferred pronouns? And they said to me that I'm the first person I've ever asked that question, and they are South African. And I couldn't understand how I am the Nigerian who came and I was the first person who ever asked them that question on set. So it's more, and I asked, I said, can I tell the production that people should refer to you as they? And said, no, please keep it quiet. I appreciate it. I don't want to inconvenience, but it broke my heart. And I really stressed it, but they were like, no. So if they didn't feel comfortable, another thing for me is that you will mess up the pronouns. You will.
Absolutely.
And the only reason why I mess up the pronouns is because in my country, if I refer to someone as they, that person will most likely be arrested.
Yeah.
So I always have to remember, like, oh, I'm here now, I can be free and speak like this, if anything. So I think if you do own a production house, if you are in charge, make it safe for everybody. We're all humans. So I just want to pass that on.
Thanks, Mimi. Thank you.
My name is Gabe from Digital. I listening to you since this, as a queer trans person, you're not just an artist, a director, but you're also an activist. Is there a line that you feel, you're saying it's exhausting having to actually do the work and be fighting for our rights all the time? Is there a very clear line between the activist and the artist, or is it just something which comes with the territory?
I think that's a great question because it's something I battle with all the time because I was firstly an activist. And then stepping into the film industry, you kind of have to put the bag away sometimes in order not to be the fighter on set and not for people to think of you as policing. And I think each one of us can hold like the activists like stick while we work, and for each other as well. So when I see microaggressions on something else, I can hold that and not feel like we have to fight, but we do have to say something. We do have to actually make, like just decisions and be responsible. I don't think there needs to be the separation of like activist artist, activist filmmaker. I like to believe that I can be an activist across all my work, and that I was given this loud voice to do that constantly for everyone. But the thing of it being exhausting, I think we have to bring in other people and invite others in, and to ask people for help and for assistance, and to go and give it to production, or go and give it to the hotline, or go and say, I think you need to bring someone on set that can help us make the set a different way, so that I don't have to be the activist while being the AD. I also struggle with it when I'm being an intimacy coordinator, because we are constantly telling crew that we're not the police. I'm not the fun police. I'm not checking your language. I'm here to actually make the intimacy, the sex, the choreography, the actors feel safe. I want this to look good. I want the director to be really like impressed. I want crew to know how this is handled, but I'm not walking around like policing and reporting. So then I do have to put some of that away. But I mean, even as an intimacy coordinator, the things, people will come and literally hit on me on set. And then I'm like, you do know I have to put that in my report. But I think all of us as filmmakers and individuals and artists in every capacity, we can be activists as well. I like to believe that. Even as like writers, as storytellers, put the activism in your work and encourage yourself and your crew to kind of have that way of working.
Well, for me, I'm a fighter, my friend. I'm tired. Hey? I've gotten to a point where I got tired of keeping quiet, because the more you keep quiet, the more they abuse you, knowing that you're not going to do anything about it. So if I see somebody else get abused, I'm like, my friend, let's get down. Outside, there's lots of space there. Let's do it, let's get down. Like, you can't be speaking like this, you can't be acting like this. You're all trying to make this game. Filmmaking is hard. Yeah. It's a hard work, like emotionally, creatively. Don't get my window, it's just works. So I don't think I've found that line, but for me, I think that I've gotten to a point where I've had to merge those two people, my creative side and my activist side, and make them one, but try not to be aggressive about it. Because at the end of the day, I am seen as an angry black woman when I speak up. So I try not to be aggressive about it, but I will tell you like it is, like, sir, calm down. This is kind of earth. It's not yours, it's ours.
Yes.
Thank you guys for a great panel. I agree, half an hour is not enough. It needs to be a much longer conversation. I want to follow up on something you said earlier on in the session about on-screen representation and about the kind of characters that are written for queer people. And I guess I just came from the social media panel, so I have Barbie on my mind. So I wanted to ask you about films like that when there's, for example, the trans Barbie, yes, or if there's a non-binary character and that is not the central part of their identity as the character, they just happen to be non-binary or trans or whatever. Do you think there are good and bad ways to do that? And if so, what are they?
Go on this because it's very much in my wheelhouse as a writer. I think that, thank you for that question, it's a great question. I think that there are definitely always good and bad ways that you can represent a community, especially if it is not your own, right? So that's why I always say try to get the people writing the story to be community members, because that's the best way that you can do it right. And then I don't think there's, I think that in the sort of conversation about diluting that singular narrative, the more queer people we see on screen, the better. And if that is because it's a story about queerness, great. If that has got nothing to do with queerness and they just happen to be queer, great. Because it's just more ways to see queerness, and that singular narrative gets diluted. In terms of how to do it right or wrong, like in Barbie or in any kind of film where it can almost feel tokeny, I think. But I'm at the point where I'm like, use me then. If you're paying me, I'll be your token. It's fine as an actor. But that's my experience. That's not everyone's experience. But I do think it's important for and really powerful for us to see ourselves on screen. And so the more different places that happens, the better. I will say, however, that not for everyone is visibility safety. Visibility very often is safety. So I think that's where I would say you can do it wrong. If you're not being careful about and considerate about who you're representing and where that's going to be seen and what danger that puts the actor themselves in and also people like them, then that's where you get into like right and wrong land, as opposed to the stories themselves. The stories, I think, the more the merrier. I want us to be able to have really crappy queer films and really good queer films. The cisheads get to do shit film all the time. We should be able to as well, right? I don't think everything has to be like amazing and art house and brilliant. So in terms of what kinds of stories, I have no problem with anything. I'm just like, everything queer, let's go. But I do think you've also just got to be careful about where visibility does put people in harm's way, and just be really mindful about that. And again, the antidote to that is to put those queer people in the space where they can be and have agency in the storytelling. That's my view.
Cool. We're being kicked off, homophobic. But you're welcome to come and grab us and ask us
we'll be around.
Questions, and I really encourage you, if so many people reach out to us and ask us questions around like to do free work. So if you can pay the queers to do the work, do that. Create SA is doing amazing, like inclusive work and bringing in like queer and diverse crew. Queer Writers Incubator is doing mentorship programs. If you want to send people that way. Free Film School is literally free film school every Saturday. So you can, and that's based in Mowbray at Bertha House. And you can always reach out to us. And if you're looking for queer crew and you don't know where to find them in South Africa,
we will help you.
Help us. And
we're not an agency, but yes, we will just point at people who we know and love and can vouch for.
And across, I think, Africa, in ways that we can link hands and work around censorship and protect like queer stories and get it out into the world, but still protect the actors and the filmmakers. I think there's a lot of ways that we can work in a Pan-African holding way, and it's exciting to be here, and it means that we are moving in the right direction. So thank you, Creators, for inviting us here to talk about it, and grab us.